I don't know about you guys, but I came to really like Khabarakh as a character in this chapter. He seems really in control, but then we realize how hastily improvised like his whole plan is.
He does give off a lot of like inexperienced vibes as well. Like this might have been his first mission, but he had enough like knowledge to say that something was broken, and that would also interfere with the comms.
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of questionable decisions. It being like, oh, there's something wrong with my ship. Also, the thing that's wrong with my ship is that the thing that tells you if something is broken on my ship or not is not working. And then
Yeah, it is.
I gotta go. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Yeah. Hello there. You found the Lost Holocron, an ancient artifact of lore and legends from a galaxy far, far away. Each transmission of the Lost Holocron, you will join an episodic discussion of media from the Star Wars universe. We will be your guides. I'm Tim, and I'm joined by Kyle.
Hello.
Scott.
Hey.
And Stuart.
Greetings.
We will be covering the material up to and including Chapter 9 of Dark Force Rising. Stuart, what has happened so far?
All right, so far, Leia Organa Solo has been pursued on numerous worlds by aliens unknown to the New Republic, intent on her abduction. In exchange for Organa Solo and her unborn twins, Grand Admiral Thrawn has negotiated an alliance with the Dark Jedi clone Joruus C'Baoth. After many failed attempts, Thrawn wishes to impress upon the Noghri the gravity of the situation. Seeking shelter with the Wookiees on Kashyyyk, Leia and Chewbacca capture a Noghri operative. During the interrogation, the operative Khabarakh identifies Leia by scent as the Malari Ush, heir to the revered Lord Vader. In exchange for a solo embassy on the Noghri homeworld, Leia allows Khabarakh to leave and meet in 1 month's time over the Forest Moon of Endor. Leia, C-3PO, and Chewbacca arrive a day early, and when the Falcon passes through the point where the Emperor died aboard the second Death Star, Leia experiences an overwhelming wave of dark side energy. Kyle, what happened in Chapter 9?
Hang on, I gotta zoom in. Always have to zoom in. While initially wary, Khabarakh accepts Leia, C-3PO, and Chewbacca aboard his ship after understanding that Chewbacca has given a life debt to Leia. Like Wookiees, Noghri culture holds honor in high regard. During the 4-day flight, Khabarakh mostly isolates himself in the cockpit, giving Leia little to prepare for her embassy, an ambivalent impression that told her their arrival to Hongor was unannounced. They arrive over Hongor, a world covered in grays and browns, a decidedly sickly-looking planet, and over it the distinctive arrowhead of an Imperial Star Destroyer. Chewbacca rushes to the cockpit, slamming on the door. Khabarakh opens the door to reassure them of his trust, but Chewbacca can only be stopped by a stun trap. Khabarakh signals the all clear, citing his delay to equipment malfunctions, and decides to take them to his home, away from the visiting Imperials. At the capital of Nesteo, the Imperials are being received in a traditional welcoming ceremony by the many clan dynasties. Captain Pelion is passed a report from Lieutenant Test about the incoming ship. Thrawn holds the ceremony to travel to Clan Kilbom, wanting to receive the returning operative from the failed abduction of Kashyyyk.
Where do you guys want to start? Do you want to start in the Wookiee side or the...
I'm deciding where I want to start.
Well, I just want to say, I think it's... How far do these Wookiee life debts go?
You know, we were talking in Chapter 2 of like, when did this happen? Right?
Yeah.
Right.
And, oh, actually, it was in Chapter 4 that we were wondering about the life debt. And in this chapter, it says that it was extended to me and my brother during the war. Do you think that was pre or post Endor? Like after the second Death Star or before?
I think post is what he would do.
I think post.
Because, I mean, at that point, they're a flirtation ship.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, she declared her love for Han on like Bespin, but then he was like frozen for like a couple years or however long it was. I think it's a year between the two. 2 years, I think, actually.
I think it's 6 months, but it crosses over a year. Yeah, it's 3 ABY and 4 ABY.
Oh my goodness.
It's probably during that frozen period, because if Leia's doing everything she can to save Han, then they have overlined. But he also probably waited for Han to have a more serious relationship with Leia, because Leia's definitely not
Yeah.
the first woman in Han's life.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Maybe it first crossed his mind during the Frozen period.
Right. But then she also mentions that it also extends to the children in her belly. So
I mean, that seems obvious. What doesn't seem obvious is that it extends over Luke as well.
Does it?
Yeah,
Because like that's Han's heir, right? And it would make sense that, you know, your dog has puppies. You're going to care for those puppies just naturally. Yes, there is the option to adopt away, but like naturally, you are the first option for caregiver. So when Leia has her litter, that's going to be for Chewbacca to watch over.
Is it a litter because Han is Chewie's dog?
Han is Chewie's dog, yeah.
Yeah.
but the thing is that like so my original question, when does it end? Because if you suddenly now have a life debt to the children, and then the children have children, like I do get the life debt, and I do think it's hilarious that the Noghri are like, hey, you guys have life debts too? Same. But it's like it has to end at some point.
Maybe it's not a debt in reference to like the person's life, but instead to the Wookiee's life. Like,
Maybe.
I'm doing this debt for the duration of my life because they live longer. And so then it's like, I'm not just protecting you now. I'm like essentially protecting your family until I'm done, you know?
Maybe.
I mean, if that is true, I mean, the Wookiees seem to take honor very, very seriously. And so if they see somebody else committing some honorable act, they are like, well, I'm going to defend that honor as far as it goes.
Yeah.
And that might, like you said, it might extend for the entirety of their life. Even after they're dead, I'm still going to defend their honor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I do forget that Wookiees do live longer, so maybe they're like, I'm only devoting like one. Yeah, it's years for you guys, but it's only like a few months for me.
Give a life debt to someone that's in their 70s.
It'd be like if whatever Yoda's species was, yeah, I gave a year of my life for them.
What if
nothing?
What if there's like a Black Widow equivalent of a Wookiee where they keep doing life debts and then killing the person? And it just becomes
They
a
wouldn't
pattern.
need to kill him though.
Yeah.
They just outlive him.
Yeah. Serial killer.
Serial outliver.
You said a Black Widow Wookiee, and my first thought was the gorilla spider from Spy Kids 3.
Oh my god. It's scary.
Gorilla spider photo.
Oh no, please don't.
It was kind of weird. I thought that, well, it's, I'm not sure whether it is or not, because I've been seeing Leia in a very negative light since we've been reading this book. But her thinking, oh, well, these Noghri, they're pretty uncultured. They probably wouldn't understand. Like, I'm of the precious few that does understand that Wookiees have life debts or something. But like, Wookiees are pretty common creatures in the galaxy. So I'm not sure where the shade is being thrown there of like, he has well, you wouldn't understand. He's under a life debt to you, and she's like shocked that he understands the concept of a life debt. And I'm like,
well, remember, she doesn't have a whole lot of like perception of other alien species.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm wondering if that's my negative bias overriding how this is supposed to be read.
Yeah. She just assumes that other species don't know anything about other species.
Or she's just like, oh, I know this one thing about this culture, therefore I am enlightened. And I am more woke than you are, essentially. Yeah.
I know everything about every species because I know one thing about one species.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the feeling I was getting from that.
Yeah. Which, I mean, to be fair, I mean, it's a solid way to add a character flaw to her, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been very consistent.
Yeah. If I were to like take Leia from the movies and be like, what chink could I put in the armor there? That would probably be it.
No.
Yeah. And also makes her a nice foil to Thrawn in a way, because Thrawn is hyper aware of other cultures, but intentionally uses them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and exploits them.
That's a nice inversion.
Yeah.
Earlier in the chapter, he was like, well, you're not coming with me. And Chewie was quite capable of ignoring pretty much any order he chose to. He was like, yes, that's the concept of free will and individuality.
Yeah.
We're not in war times here.
Yeah. Chewie is a being.
Yeah.
Right.
He's not like C-3PO that will just take any order.
C-3PO is a being.
Yeah, but he will take every
C-3PO.
order, though.
Yeah, you have to remind him that he's a being.
Yeah.
I completely forgot C-3PO was in this chapter until you guys said it right now.
Yeah, he's been very, very background.
It would be nice to see him being a bit more active, especially because he's with Leia and not Han. Because I feel like we've really just seen him with Han now, and of course Han just doesn't care about him.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
He wants to turn him into alluvium dampers or whatever.
Maybe that's why he's so quiet. Part of his vocalizer has been turned into an alluvial dampener.
Maybe, honestly. Yeah.
He's just turned into one of those coworkers who's trying not to get noticed so he doesn't get called out.
Yeah. I kind of wonder how much experience I started reading a book about conlanging, which is making languages, people who do this for a hobby. And in the very beginning of the book, they point out the scene in Return of the Jedi when Leia says the same thing, but the subtitles say that it's something else. And he got really kind of curious about this as a kid and met people, and these kind of like window dressing languages that are just incomplete. They're not real things, but they're supposed to be in the context of these things. But there are people who went behind the scenes, most famous of which is J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote the books well after he constructed all of the languages to build on this. And I'm wondering how much experience, like this is 1991, and this book was written like quite recently and talks about how conlanging community really took off around the turn of the century. So I'm wondering because we have wondered before whether Timothy Zahn has studied another language and how that might have informed how he creates these new words. Like this Maleri Ush is the only one that we've got so far. And then I guess we've got their own name, Noghri, and the name Honagar.
I've been saying Honor.
Honor?
Yeah.
That sounds nice.
Yeah. My brain reads it as honor, honestly. Which if that's what it was derived from, I kind of love how on the nose that is. Because I want my space fantasy to be a little stupid.
Yeah.
But I mean, it does have like the first 5 letters of Noghri in there as well, so it could be something like Noghri home or whatever. So there's a few fun ways to read that. So I like the name a lot.
Yeah.
But that also makes me wonder if like he was just making this up as just as much as he needed to write.
Yeah.
For his story. And
I suspect
not
that's what's
expanding
going
much
on.
beyond that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone else will figure this out later.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, maybe that's where we could have seen a little bit more of C-3PO of him. They say he mentioned something about like applied linguistics in this chapter of like trying to figure out where does Maleri Ush come from, and C-3PO was like, well, I've got 6.5 million languages that I can sort through, but like we've only got one data point, so it's impossible to tell which one it's supposed to intersect with.
That's crazy. How big is this galaxy?
I mean,
Pretty big.
Yeah.
6 million might actually be very small because because he must. I wonder if he counts each one as a dialect of a language, and that would include things that fall under, like not just basic, but he understands 6 types of basic, or the galaxy's pretty big.
I was just watching Return of the Jedi again recently, and I was paying special attention to when he was like learning to try and speak to the Ewoks, and he was like, they're using a primitive dialect, but he was also able to kind of like piece together from his database the language that he thought that they spoke. So I thought that was pretty clever that he kind of did that too. That he's actually able to program to do that or whatever too. So
people in polyglot communities do talk about how much easier it gets after you learn your third or fourth language. That the third one is much easier than the second one, and the fourth one is much easier than the third one, just because your brain is now more flexible in terms of receiving input. And it's why it's quite easy to learn French compared to like Arabic from English, because there's so much overlapping vocabulary that you don't have to learn the whole language, just enough that your grammar is functional, and then you just say English stuff in a French accent and hope that it is the same word.
I went Spanish to French, and it was a very, very massive springboard.
I get told by a lot of Spanish speakers in my area that learning Italian is super easy if you speak Spanish already.
Yeah. So that would be like the Romance languages of West Europe. And then there's I think, German language family that is quite small. And then there's the Nordic languages. And then there's those ones that cover all the way from like Polish to Russian, as well as another family. Slavic languages? Yeah. I think that's it. But yeah, if you're learning from the same language family, it is much easier to learn. And I think the UN puts out a guide for English speakers. If you want to learn a language, it takes this many study hours to learn that language. Cool. And it ranges from like English to French is like 200. And then if you also want to learn Spanish, that's also 200. But it would vary on the languages that you know. But then to learn I think the most difficult was Japanese, Chinese, Korean, and Arabic is like 24,000 hours of study to be fluent.
Wow.
And that doesn't include becoming a specialist as well.
Wow.
That's crazy.
What's it like if you're starting from like a Korean base going to Chinese, or just as an example, or like Japanese going to Korean?
So it depends on, I think there's a few things that it depends on. It depends on language order, whether it's a subject-verb-object language or a subject-object-verb language. The way that the sentences are constructed as well, in kind of like from Japanese uses a lot of particles to indicate what function a particular word is doing in a sentence. And Korean also does that, so that makes it easier between those languages. And then there's also the phonology as well, which we talked a little bit about when we said that having a lisp in Shirawook might make it easier for Leia to understand. I think like English has so many vowels in it. Like there's 20-something vowels in English, but in Japanese there's only 5. And I think Korean also only has like 5 or 6 or something like that. I haven't studied Korean, so but people in Japan say that it's so easy to learn Korean because this phonetically it's so similar. The language, the word order is also very similar. And then, as I said just before, having an overlapping vocabulary is also important. So if you know the word like bibliography, then it's very easy to understand, biblioteca is going to be something to do with books.
Exactly.
I'm learning sign language, and it's pretty fun.
Ooh, cool.
How's that going for
coming
you?
along?
Not too bad.
Have you learned more than like the one finger salute?
I don't know what that is.
Which finger? You gotta know which finger.
The middle finger. You learn more than the middle finger.
Yeah, I can tell someone my name. Hello, nice to meet you. Houseboat.
Houseboat.
Yeah.
Is house and boat also combine to houseboat as it does in English?
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
And I also know a few swears.
Oh, of course. Those are the first things you learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one's for the podcast listeners.
He's doing a heart sign with his hands, guys. Just so you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now he's throwing up gang signs.
Oh, okay.
So that we didn't get a section with C-3PO saying, okay, well, here's some examples of like how we might be able to practice this linguistic stuff makes me feel like either Timothy Zahn didn't think it was interesting when he tried it, he wasn't interested in doing it, or it just didn't feel that confident to put something like that in. And I think the most likely is that, like you said, he's making up as he goes along, and that was kind of just like, we're going to skip over this part.
Writing a sci-fi novel seems really exhausting.
Yeah.
I know if I was writing a sci-fi novel and I was trying to like develop a language, it would take so much of my time and my effort, and I would probably just give up.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe Timothy Zahn just didn't want to go there, or if he just wanted to focus on the actual books, but I don't know.
No, I don't. I think what he did was offload all of that to LucasArts or whoever is in charge of the publishing department, and said like, okay, you're going to give me all the resources that I need to do this. I'm going to ask you all these questions. I'm going to come back to you in 3 months, and if I don't have satisfactory answers, I'm going to have to rewrite this. So yeah, I mean, like, it being part of like book writing communities encourage you to do all that research and everything, but then professionals' advice is that when it comes time to write the book, like, close the door, leave everything outside, don't look at your notes, don't think about these things, just write the story, and you'll come back later to add that gravy on top, because that's not what the actual story is about, despite it being, very important flavor text for a lot of us as fans. But as you said, it gets in the way. It makes you feel very unconfident about putting these things in as well. Like, oh man, I don't feel like this is up to scratch. 99.999% of people probably won't get it, but those people that do will, but you as the author are like the supreme keeper of all the knowledge, and if you need to cover all your bases before you start plotting your stuff first. I don't know. People have their different methods as well.
This is why I just edit. Give me the pieces. I will make them nice.
Yeah. I got to say, that's probably why I have not written anything in a while besides these summaries, because
understandably so.
Yeah, I'm overwhelmed by the research that I think I have to do rather than actually writing the things themselves, which is the actual work of it.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I came to really like Khabarakh as a character in this chapter, and I would love to see it from his perspective.
Jury's still out for me.
Okay.
What drew you to him in this one?
I think just with how he seems really in control, but then we realize how hastily improvised like his whole plan is, and how he is straight up just playing it moment by moment in this chapter. I think his culture doesn't like permit expression of fear, but I think internally he's terrified at the moment. And very conflicted about what he's done.
He does give off a lot of like inexperienced vibes as well. Like, this might have been his first mission.
Yeah.
Or something. I'm not quite sure. But he had enough like knowledge to give a reasonable excuse for the shielding. Not the shielding. What do they call it? There's something dampening.
Static dampening.
The static dampening, yeah. So he had enough knowledge to do something about static dampening. He had enough knowledge to say that something was broken, and that would also interfere with the comms. So he can't be so inexperienced that this is...
Yeah.
He's very... Man, it could still be his first mission, but like... he's obviously gone through a lot of training. He knows a lot.
Yeah, he does.
Just maybe not practically about... I don't know how politically this might work.
Yeah, because this is like a massive thing.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I've gotten the impression that the Noghri are just loyal to Thrawn from here.
Yeah.
And he's just coming in like, here's our like actual person we should be following, and guess what? They're from the exact opposite side.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of questionable decisions and then doing really stupid moves. It being like, oh, there's something wrong with my ship. Also, the thing that's wrong with my ship is the thing that tells you if something is broken on my ship or not is not working. And then
it is.
I gotta go. I'll see you guys later. Also, I know I'm the only surviving team from the mission to go kill Leia. We'll talk later. Bye.
Yeah. To be fair, though, he's making his decisions based on ideology solely, it seems like.
Yeah.
And so it's frankly not always smart. But I think belief is driving him more than critical thinking in this.
Yeah.
And I think he also thinks that everybody else is going to share his same ideology as far as who Leia is. And he's not really thinking ahead.
Yeah. I think this is what you get when you have these honor-based societies, that you are so wrapped up in ideology, and that when something challenges the ideology, like you just have to purge it from your society, or things just start coming apart at the seams.
Yeah.
Oh man, we got a ticking time bomb here.
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds like it, but
yeah.
I guess we'll...
When you put it that way, I think we do.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing like the interaction that happens with the Noghri and, well, Leia, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they said that Khabarakh told Leia that during the war, Vader handed off duty to Thrawn by saying, you know, I've got to focus on the Emperor's enemies. So your new master is going to be Thrawn. And from that point on, they didn't really see him. So I guess there's been like an official handing off that Vader is no longer their master, but we did get that line about him being the only one compassionate towards their plight.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're still strictly following the paperwork of who the Noghri belong to, it's definitely Thrawn, not Leia. But yeah, I think when you put ideology into this of like, oh, well, I'm the daughter and heir that, you should be listening to me. They also don't seem very well understanding of galactic politics either, as like how that went down.
Yeah.
I am excited to see more of what exactly did go down with them. I'm surprised for another species that is honor bound as they are, they don't have more allies during this time, and they're like, oh, Vader was the only one that was willing to help us. We're willing to die for other people, but no one was there for us after whatever happened.
Yeah.
I mean, he says their plan has gotten shitty enough that other creatures just aren't surviving on it.
Oh yeah, I like that part. That part was it was very well expressed, I feel like. Are there any other animals on your world dangerous enough for me to need a blaster? Not anymore. It's quite mournful, that idea of like an idyllic past that just is just evaporated.
And I imagine they haven't left because they are an honor-bound society, that they probably have sacred land. Otherwise, why else? I mean, they obviously have ships.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah. But it also could be the Empire's not letting them leave either.
Maybe.
Because they're kind of in the Empire's pocket, so.
Yeah. I feel like it could be a metaphor for this loyalty to the Empire ultimately being a detriment to them. I mean, it's literal, but I mean, it's also thematically appropriate.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that will give us any clues to what kind of conflict we can see with the Noghri and what lessons they might have to learn in the story. Perhaps they need to evolve their ideology in order to get a better future for themselves.
Yeah. I do want to make a point that don't look up your MacGuffins when you're reading a book unless you want to know what happens.
Oh no.
I think that also goes for locations as well, because the Wikipedia editors have like written. They like to show off their
They're on
knowledge.
top of everything. Yeah.
Yeah, they like to show off that. Oh, I know what happened. Like when we did look up the alluvial dampeners, we were like, "Hey, look, there's a quote because it's in this book."
Right.
Yeah.
And like that was a notable thing that C-3PO had once been thought about turned into one of them.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love Wikipedia, but be careful.
Yeah.
My greatest mistake of looking up Leia's lightsaber.
Yeah, exactly. You don't think it's very important, but it might be down the track.
Mm.
So
Here's
yeah.
a list of every person that Leia's lightsaber has killed.
Oh no, she killed someone.
I didn't know. Again, that's not even me trying to cover. Anybody who has picked up that lightsaber and used it to kill somebody will be on that list.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's her lightsaber, not her. But yeah.
Other people pick up her lightsaber.
Possibly. Don't look it up if you want to know. Don't.
Thrawn uses it to kill himself. Dun dun dun.
He slips and falls and
Gets tangled in that grass.
in the grass.
When using her lightsaber to try and cut himself out, fatally slices off his own arm.
What would be even more funny is if he was running at her with it and just tripped.
That scene from World War Z where that dude's running up the ramp to the plane, just trips, falls, and shoots himself in the head.
Oh, yeah. Oh man. So yeah, I have read this book before. I dove onto that sword to look to see if there was any information about the planet. I think they said it was Honoghr, was their pronunciation guide, and I was like, okay.
No, I don't really like that. It
Yeah.
makes sense with
I
what
disagree.
we've seen of the language, but yeah, I do disagree.
Honestly, I cannot remember how the audiobook said it. So
Yeah.
I'm useless.
Well, as with every word, we have 5 different pronunciations on this podcast, so let's keep it going.
I like onager, where you don't pronounce the H, kind of like honor.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was super weird that the book described how the Noghri talk as cat-like.
Oh yeah, gravelly mewing. I can't get a
Mewing.
texture in my mind for what that sounds like.
Yeah,
I'm just
I can't
imagining
either.
the musical Cats.
Uh-huh.
The old Jellicle one Noghri.
No.
So, yeah, because this was written well before they wanted to establish a very good timeline about what happened in the prequel era, I was just looking to see what they, how they do this, because it seems to be Leia's impression that it was damaged during the war, the Galactic Civil War, not the Clone Wars, which it has been retconned to in order to force it into old Legends canon. They're saying that it was a Lucrehulk, which is one of the droid ships, the big sphere with the arms, that a Lucrehulk crashed on their place and did some environmental damage.
That'll do it.
Yep. I mean, that's what happened in Jedi Survivor, right?
Yeah.
It was the same thing. They crashed into
Kobo.
a bog and on
Yeah.
Kobo, yeah. I'm wondering whether they will mention how long ago the war was from in this timeline, to see whether or not it was actually the Clone Wars or the Galactic Civil War. That was quite interesting, the kind of possibilities that might pull out of this. Because if it was supposed to be the old Clone Wars before the time of the Empire, in this timeline, or the whatever universe this book is set in, that Vader was Vader-ish even before the rise of the Empire.
He still was kind of in the Clone Wars cartoon. We saw it slipping through.
Yeah, no, I meant like in his black clad armor. The iconic Vader.
Gotcha. So yeah, literally Vader. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Although if it does go back that far, that it was before he was armor clad, it would explain why they could smell him on her.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he just didn't have the helmet.
I'm wondering now what that suit smells like.
Like Funyuns.
Vader just depression eats in his pod.
Yeah, it tracks.
Yeah. Bad Vader.
I wonder what he can feel anymore, or all of his nerve endings just getting shot.
Pretty sure he feels pain.
Yeah. They don't have the technology to reconstruct him, but they definitely have the technology to make him to suit into his nerve endings.
Because that's part of the reason why the Emperor did that on purpose, to basically just keep him angry and pissed off all the time.
Yeah. I mean, Luke reacted to the new hand he got in Empire Strikes Back when it was pricked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are pain receptors.
Is there anything else about this, the part with our heroes in it, before we turn our attention to the Imperials?
Are they leaving the Falcon drifting in space?
Yeah, I was gonna say, did they just leave the Falcon? Where the hell? And wouldn't Thrawn find the Falcon like on scanners or something?
Does it at least have a car alarm?
Right.
Well, we know it doesn't have a beck and call to fly itself somewhere.
Did they just like park it in like a back alley or somewhere?
You guys don't just take your car to the middle of a parking lot and leave it there running, and then walk into the store
with all the windows down?
I mean, they couldn't lock and leave it on which was the singing planet?
Bimasari.
Right?
Bimasari. Yeah, they couldn't lock and leave it on Bimasari, but they can just lock and leave it in space.
Just
yeah. I mean, granted, what are the odds of someone finding it? But
yeah. Did they leave it running on cruise control, like in space, or do they just like? Is it just like floating, like tumbling and?
they got it up to speed first, so it's just going around like super quick. So if anybody does find it, they just can't catch up to it.
It's going in a circle.
So it's like a satellite around the planet now, just like.
Then how do they get on
it? Tractor beam, maybe? I don't know.
A lot of special calculations.
The Force. The Force. It's the Force. Yeah.
The one time Leia can actually use the Force.
Yeah.
This being said makes me feel like there's a path being assumed already. Like they're gonna get captured and they're gonna be like, "Yeah, we found the Millennium Falcon drifting in space, so now it's here conveniently on the ship for you."
Well, I mean, we see Thrawn in those chapters. I'm assuming that's what's going down.
Yeah.
But who knows? Leia's smart. Chewie's tough. C-3PO has his moments. Maybe they'll get away. See if they kept their plot armor up to date.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't take it in for servicing.
I didn't download the latest patch. So, any thoughts on the Thrawn portion of the chapter? The villain portion?
I was so hopeful for the briefest of seconds that this is going to be the one thing that slipped through Thrawn's perception.
Yeah.
Just, but like all plans, quickly dashed under Thrawn's all-seeing eye.
Yeah. I was hopeful because Khabarakh had so many things he was doing, and I was like, oh, good. But then Thrawn. At this point, I'm kind of at the point where whenever it happens, I'm like, oh, you.
It's been very well established.
Yeah.
Again, I do believe that they're pulling a lot of really stupid moves, but I thought this was going to be just one stupid move that was just going to slip by. But no, this underling.
The one move that was too stupid for him to predict.
I feel like it would have worked if it wasn't for the fact that it needs repairs and it's going to an outlying village rather than a spaceport that the repairs could be done at. Like if it was anything but that, I'm like, that's the one thing that Thrawn is saying, like, all right, this passes the sniff test. Let's go check it out. Doesn't pass the sniff test?
I don't know. I've never done a sniff test.
You have a smell a shirt that you just wore yesterday? Say, yeah, that doesn't pass the sniff test. I got to throw that in the wash. I can't wear that again.
Oh, that's what you
Yeah.
mean. Yeah.
I just
Gotcha, never
assumed that
mind.
it's things.
I don't know what my honestly my mind imagined like a K9 unit, and I was like, okay.
I mean, that is what happens with Thrawn. So you pass
Yeah.
your T-shirt through the Thrawn K9 unit,
Oh my god.
whether or not you can wear it again.
I do not wear t-shirts for the record.
There were two things that I thought were really funny in this chapter. One of them was that the Lieutenant Shell, is it Shell, something Shell?
Let's see how many we can come up with.
I think the audiobook says to shell.
To Shell, yeah.
I'm going to say Tiskel.
Tiskel. So this Lieutenant Shell was only mentioned in chapter 1 of the first book, and he was the faux pas committing lieutenant that was
like yelling across the
yelling across the bridge when he wasn't supposed to. And
Really?
when Palaeon was in with Thrawn's quad and said, yes, this must be delivered directly, nobody should ever patch a comm through here. And then he's the one on the comm saying, yeah, we found something, sir.
That's this guy. Oh, wow.
I was hoping to see a lot more of him in the last book, and I'm wondering if we're going to get more of him in this book. But he's still a lieutenant. He's not received any promotion since the last book.
Yeah,
understandably for his lack of imperial decorum.
Yeah.
But that then leads into the second thing that I find much more funny, which is Palaeon saying, oh, I hate all this pomp and ceremony when it comes to native things, but he is the one that looks down on things not being done in the particular imperial ceremony. And it's like that thing of like, I don't have an accent, you have an accent. I don't have culture, you have culture. Culture is thing that other people have. What I'm doing is just right. It's just the way it should be.
And these Imperials are great at parties, huh?
Yeah. But I thought that Palaeon was kind of funny as the wet blanket in this chapter.
Yeah, it was a nice change of pace for him. Because it does feel like Thrawn simp is his role a lot of the time. Understandably so.
Does Thrawn appreciate the ceremony of other people? I mean, that's a kind of art, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he appreciates it, but he uses it to his tactical advantage.
But then I wonder if many of the other Imperials are shifting uncomfortably. Oh, we have to stand through the ceremony again.
Probably are.
Thrawn's the only one relaxing.
Could you imagine the energy in that room?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it shouldn't be tense, right? The Noghri do revere the Imperials. They're their saviors in as far as us and they know.
True, yeah.
So it could be a sincere oblation to honorable figures from the dynasts.
I just meant attention on the Imperials being uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah. Not between the groups.
Yeah. I also liked how quick Thrawn was to pick up on the change in atmosphere behind him. Like they're all standing off behind him, passing notes, and Thrawn immediately just wait a moment.
Yeah.
I sense something in the air.
Nothing gets past him. Except Lando. Yeah, I liked that too.
We talked at the beginning of this. Like, we know 20 years later, Thrawn isn't Force sensitive, but could he possibly be in all that we've read, or is that kind of discounted?
I mean, I don't know. Do you think he's just naturally that intelligent, or do you think the Force would have a role to play in that?
I think he's just that intelligent.
Maybe he doesn't know it.
Maxed out his intelligence stat. Wisdom is neutral. Charisma is a +1, +2.
Yeah, I think he's just is highly perceptive.
He's very perceptive. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if he had an ability to use the Force, he would just dismiss it as like, just, oh, whatever, that's nothing.
True. Yeah. He could be like, oh, I am just naturally this good. This isn't the Force. This is me. Yeah.
Although, because he does keep the Isalamiri around a lot, do you think he would probably notice a difference, right? There would be a difference.
Yeah, that's true.
Never mind. Yeah. No Force for Thrawn.
Yeah, that's true. Never mind. He's naturally very perceptive.
Yeah, okay.
And imaginative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must take a good imagination to, and very empathetic, possibly.
Yeah.
To put himself in other people's shoes and understand why they're making their art.
Yeah. Or decisions that they make.
Or, decisions. Why these ceremonies are so important to them.
Mm-hmm.
Peak brain ability.
Very
one step
brain.
Below telekinesis.
Maybe he's as smart as somebody can possibly be without the Force. Like, he's like max natural smartness. And then like the next tier, you have like the Force helping you.
Oh man, imagine Thrawn with the Force.
That'd be crazy. He'd be unstoppable.
Fearsome, yeah.
Even on a natural one, he still passes all his intelligence checks.
Yeah.
It was like a plus 20 to everything.
Sounds like our boy Thrawn. Yeah. +1 on each category in the physical department, or maybe +2. Yeah. Any other thoughts on the chapter?
No, not currently.
I gotta say, I like that we're here now. Instead of, I feel like there's been a lot of, let's go to this planet. I feel like we've seen a lot of cities and civilizations, like big ones, but nothing this small yet. Like the smallest we've gotten before now would be Card's compound. And that's just a business headquarters.
No.
It's not like a local group that is just like a very small village, and I don't know, it gives me some slight Endor vibes.
No.
So it just feels like a nice little change of pace.
Nice, the grasslands of Honor, or however we're choosing to pronounce this.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it keeps going.
Yeah, you made the comment before that like this book seems more exciting than the first one, and I got to agree. Like,
yeah,
I've seen a lot of people, like, whenever anybody asks like, oh, I want to read a Star Wars book, which one do you recommend? It's almost always people say read Heir to the Empire, and I'm wondering if you can skip the first book and just go to the second book.
That's a good thought experiment. Yeah,
this one is just on it. I'm like, everybody knows who Thrawn is already. We don't need the introduction to like X, Y, or Z. You're jumping right into a political intrigue. All the characters are like something somewhere. We got almost nothing out of Mara in the first book that you couldn't pick up in the in the second, the second chapter when we get her intro in this book.
You'd have to fill in some blanks on some plot threads, but I guess it could work overall.
Yeah. Just listen to the Lost Holocron summaries for the first book and then jump right into the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Listen to the first minute of each podcast episode and then jump into the second one.
You know what? I did summarize the first book when we did the first chapter of this book. So just start with the second book.
Right.
Yay, only one episode to listen to. We make it easy.
But please, we need those listening stats. Go back and listen to our library.
All right, now we're just begging. This has been the Lost Holocron.
It's a great podcast to put on and fall asleep to.
All right, I'm excited to see what's next. This has been the Lost Holocron. You can find transcripts, links to discussions, and more at our website, lostholocron.com. While you're there, you can learn how you can support the creation of future episodes. Read on, and we will be waiting for you in the next transmission. We would be honored if you would join us.